Welcome to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moody.
And I'm Majat Ali, and we started a bit late because I was telling Danielle that this is Ali Daddy Daycare, where I woke up and there were just like 7 children in my home. My youngest daughter brought her friend. Her friend had an older sister from my oldest daughter, and then they had a brother. So now the brother's playing with my son, and then there was like this random woman sitting in my in my living room just chilling. I'm like, "Hello, who are you?" She goes, "I am the nanny." So that's my home right now.
I said
I offered her watermelon and mango. I'm like, random woman I've never met before.
Camp Who are you? We should all be so lucky.
It's great
to join. And then somebody said, "Yippee, Daddy Daycare." All right, folks. So it's been, let me just say this. I've enjoyed my weekend. So when I woke up, it was clocking into all of the news that Waj gathered that I have been blissfully ignoring.
Oh, good for you.
While I've been hanging out with my family this weekend. So we get started with Donald Trump, which I said the title of this show is Trump Spirals, Racist Distractions, Epstein Fallout, and a Crumbling Dollar. That's pretty much America in a nutshell right now. And why is Donald Trump spiraling, Waj? What's your take on it?
I mean, it is remarkable. It is remarkable that we have to just sit here for a second. Let's just pause for a moment and reflect, because I've heard from the wellness industry that reflection helps people.
It does.
Trump has been in the political landscape now for 10 years. He's been in the media landscape since the 80s. Mm-hmm. It's the era of Trump, an age of Trumpism. He has incited a violent insurrection. America was like, that's okay. He lied to us during a pandemic, which eventually killed over 1 million Americans. America said, He's been held liable for sexual assault and defaming E.G. and Carroll, with multiple double-digit number of women accusing him of sexual assault. America is like, nobody's perfect. He'll become presidential. This man has tanked the economy not just once, but now twice. No problem. What is the one thing that finally is his kryptonite? The horrific sex, pedophilia, child trafficking conspiracy that he promoted as a weapon against the rest of us, Epstein, and his friendship with Epstein. That is the one kryptonite where even his base says no. And we've been waiting, Danielle, for 10 years. The question that we've asked and everyone else has asked, what's the bottom? Mm-hmm. There has to be a bottom. Mm-hmm. And the answer, honestly, before Epstein, I thought the answer was nothing. Like, this guy could literally, as he said himself, can shoot someone in the middle of Times Square and his base would approve of him, which by the way, I've always said he's right on point. Yep. But there's something about the Epstein files and what Epstein represents that even his base, Danielle, a part of his base, is like, no. And I think, I was talking to Allison last night. You and me are old enough. Back in the day, like, one of the worst things you could call someone is a pedophile. Mm-hmm. They have normalized calling the rest of us pedophiles. By they, I mean MAGA. The second worst thing you could call someone is a murderous pedophile. The third thing is a devil-worshipping murderous pedophile. What's even worse than that is a child sex trafficking, devil-worshipping murderous pedophile. And that's QAnon. And what we just saw finally over the weekend, because New York Times and a few other people remember that Vance Bolter, a radicalized right-wing Trump supporter, had a hit list of 70 people and, shot and killed a Democrat. He was in part radicalized, Danielle, by QAnon. Ashley Babbitt was radicalized by QAnon, right? People who have killed their family members radicalized by QAnon. MAGA went all in because they said that Donald Trump is the only one who can get elected and clean the deep state, and they will expose everything through what? Jeffrey Epstein. He's that missing link. Mm-hmm. They got in, and then they realized, whoopsie, our king and our daddy is all over the Epstein documents. Mm-hmm. We ain't never, ever releasing this. And Donald Trump thought, my base will do whatever I say. Mm-hmm. But on this, Danielle, nope. His base ain't forgetting. And Donald Trump is panicking. He's freaked out. And Daniel, tell him he's tried everything. So I just quick recap. Rosie O'Donnell, he threw that last week, didn't work. Obama, don't worry, we went back to Obama. Racism, Breonna Taylor, that didn't work. And now tell him what he did yesterday.
So what he did yesterday. So he's just like, and this is, I think, where I felt really, and I don't even know the good word for it. Like, just, I guess, tickled is the word I would use. Like,
Tickled
by
is
the
fine.
fact that it's just so, his response to everything is so basic now that it's like rinse and repeat. So he's on the fence. He's being pushed on the fence, feels like he's backed into a corner that he created for himself. Let's just be clear.
There you go.
With regard to Epstein and how he's been using Epstein as this cudgel for the last 10 years. So now he gets on his broke down social media platform. He's talking about withholding a stadium deal with the Washington Commanders if they don't go back to their racist name of Washington Redskins. And now, like, Donald Trump has made this like a thing. Again, everything is manufactured around a distraction. So that's just number one, right? He's like, the Washington whatevers, because he's 5, should immediately change their name back to the Washington Redskins football team. There is a big clamoring for this. No, there isn't.
No.
Likewise, the Cleveland Indians, one of the 6 original baseball teams with a storied past. It's just like Donald Trump's like, we need more racism. Because he needs it. They need it. MAGA needs it. Trumpism needs it. Fascism needs it in order to survive. They need racism. They need slave labor. They need like hate in order to, and it's waning because people are becoming disaffected with Donald Trump. Again, not saying that this is the straw that breaks the camel's back when it comes to MAGA, but it is a fracture and a fissure. Donald Trump this weekend reposting an AI generated video depicting Barack Obama being arrested. Time magazine did a story on Donald Trump is musing at the idea of arresting Obama. Again, Donald Trump muses about a lot of things so that we're not paying attention to everything else, which is this: inside Trump's frantic failing mission to crush the Epstein MAGA rebellion. So all the other 3 slides leading up to this are all the ways that he's been trying, on top of the Rosie O'Donnell shit, on top of the Hillary Clinton shit, on top of firing Maureen Comey from the Southern District of New York, like, who was the lead prosecutor on the Epstein case, on the Maxwell case, and most recently on Diddy. Like, on top of all of these things, what he's trying to do is get back, Waj, a hold over his base. And so here you have it. Like, there is a rebellion that is happening with a very vocal faction of MAGA that Donald Trump and Trumpism created, because they created these MAGA influencers to infiltrate the TikToks and Instagram and all of these things, some of them paid by Russia, right? In order to like spread their messages far and wide and do everything that Democrats don't do. And so now, this is what it says, and I'll turn it back over to you, Waj, which is Rolling Stone. It was a week from hell that nearly broke Donald Trump's administration. By the time it was over, the president had sustained more blowback and political damage for his administration's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files than he did for bombing Iran last month. The week was a kick in the balls, a senior administration official bluntly notes. It was a lot to deal with, and there were a lot of emotions. The end is nowhere in sight. As supporters for MAGA influencers and Republican politicians continue to raise hell over the Justice Department's memo announcing the administration's belief that Epstein killed himself in prison and that it was effectively closing its case on the convicted sex offender and accused sex trafficker. The melodrama has clearly eaten away at the notoriously mercurial president's patience, they won't shut the fuck up about it. Trump privately vented, referring to conservative influencers and media types lashing out over the Epstein memo, according to sources.
I mean, folks, never go full conspiracy theorist. And you know, with the Washington Commanders and the Cleveland Guardians, I saw them trend. And Danielle, you know, I thought to myself before even clicking on it, he's going on a racist rant and probably wants to bring back the names. And lo and behold, I looked at it, and that's what's happening. It's even worse, folks. He's actually threatening to restrict a stadium deal with Washington. That's how desperate he is. So he's threatening the owners to go back to the racist name, to go back like, you know, several years and bring back the racism or else, right? So he is exerting his executive power, which, by the way, let's throw the Supreme Court under the bus because they're completely corrupt, that gave him this green light and have since then given him a green light to do whatever he wants because they're following the unitary executive theory, right? Where they want a king. He's flexing. And now he's flexing from a defensive position because like a rat, an old bloated rat, with cankles cornered into the back, right? He will chew. He will chew through anything. He will chew through his friends, his allies, the guardrails, democracy. He might even chew through one of his cankles to be free. This is a man, you know, my parents were visiting, and I think it was one of my parents who was saying, you know, think about this. This man has, my mom was saying, has never, ever been held accountable for his numerous sins and crimes throughout his life. My mom said this guy's like one of the luckiest people on earth. And then my dad chimes in. He goes, my dad, you know, me like the Muslim elder. He's like, he is not lucky. One day he will have to meet his creator. and then also my dad was like, still things will get really bad for him. The Pharaoh thought he would live forever as well, right? So this is a man, I think what we're witnessing, and I like you, Danielle, has the entire base gone from him? No, we'll give you examples. This is a major weakness, folks. This is a major crack. And I believe the fact that Nancy, I always want to bring this up. I have to. As this is happening, Danielle, you and me are not Democratic strategists. We're just trying to get by. I have 800 kids. You enjoy your coffee. We're simple folk. But even people like us, we see this and we go, you know, maybe if your enemy and the enemy of democracy right now is flailing on this one issue, maybe go all in 10 toes down with this issue. And then can you just, I think it's important. I think it's important because sometimes people get upset at us when we criticize the Democratic establishment, Democratic leaders. I keep saying openly, they are not built for this fight. They are not made for this moment. Maybe the 20th century, Danielle, but now we need new fighters. Can you just tell people what Nancy Pelosi said just a few days ago for those who didn't follow us?
Yeah. So last week, Nancy Pelosi is asked by Chris Jansing on MSNBC. It seems that Donald Trump's base is really like losing it over the Epstein case. Like, what do you think about it? And what are Democrats going to do about it? And in pure, just true Nancy Pelosi form, it was her referring to the Epstein drama as a distraction from, quote, kitchen table issues. We have more important things to be dealing with. Let them, referring to the Trump base, talk this out, but we have more important things to do, which once again signaled to me and anybody with a brain that Nancy Pelosi does not know how to utilize media, does not know how to create headlines, does not know how to use a current moment that people have globbed onto and exploit it to your advantage. And this is the thing that establishment Democrats have shown us over and over again. To Waj, your point, they are not built for this moment. You need to understand media. You need to understand what drives culture. You need to understand what is driving, right, this movement, which I've talked about with Jared last week, isn't just about politics, but it's like a cultural connection and like desire to have this thing that they have become largely addicted to, right? Which is like the consumerism attached with Trumpism, and like the need to numb yourself and feel like good that this man is somehow fighting for you. And look, Nancy Pelosi, the supposed, Debbie Dingle, like these people are just, they are 20th century statesmen
Yep.
in a 21st century war that is largely playing out online, right? And they're losing. And they lose so badly, and they have people inside the party that are like, no, no, the door is this way, victory is this way, the finish line is this way. And they're like, pipe down, youngster, we know where we're going. And they're walking around in fucking circles.
That's exactly it. We know where we're going. We're the elders. Shut your mouth. We're gonna live forever, and you'll get your time eventually. That's why Nancy Pelosi, folks, I always want to bring up this tidbit, while she was on the hospital bed, rallied votes for Jerry Connolly to be the Democratic leader on the Oversight Committee. There was another young upstart of the Democratic Party who threw her ring to be in that position. That was AOC. And Nancy Pelosi rallied for Jerry Connolly. Danielle, can you tell people where Jerry Connolly is right now?
God rest his soul. Jerry Connolly has passed away from cancer that they knew that he had.
Who would have thought? He was 73 when he was elected. He died at the age of 74 a few months later. So we're seeing the Democratic establishment buckle. I think it's important to mention that, folks. Here on Democracy-ish, Danielle and I are independent. We speak without fear or favor. But we're also seeing now the Republican reeks realizing that Epstein ain't going away. And so some of them are gently pushing. Some of them are more vocal, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she came into power writing the conspiracy theories. Some of them are hedging their bets, like the Joe Rogans and the Shane Gillis and the bros, just like I predicted.
Some of them are just,
some of them are like Mark Levin and Charlie Kirk and others. Tell him, Daniel.
So here he goes, trying to get on Fox and say that we can't waste our time on Epstein and the other stuff going on here that some people want us to focus on, right? And what did they post? Before the show, Trump posted on Truth Social urging his supporters to watch Levin's show on Fox. And why was that? Because Donald Trump gets a hold of a mouthpiece, puts his hand up their back and says, say this, the base needs to understand. And frankly, the people who have been most radicalized, guess what? They're not actually watching Fox, right? They're watching the MAGA influencers across podcasts, across TikTok, across whatever platform. And Fox is now an extension of Donald Trump. And for a while, that was a good thing. I think, Waj, that it's actually going to work to his detriment right now because folks are like, oh, you're not saying what it is that you believe. Look, we all know that Fox is just full of fucking lies, but now you're actually watching without without any false ideas of the fact that Donald Trump posts on Truth Social at 1 o'clock, 1:10, Fox News is parroting exactly what Donald Trump told them to parrot. Now, all of a sudden, I'm telling you, his base starting to feel like fucking dopes.
You know what? Remember? Oh, you live long enough. I love this. The sword of absolutism and fascism comes for everyone. These were the same people who excised Mitt Romney from the party. They excised John McCain from the party. They excised Liz Cheney from the party. Why? They called them rhinos, Republicans in name only, because they were somewhat critical of MAGA. Now we have minos, MAGA in name only. And some of these people, folks, it's happening in real time. They're turning on Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, Mark Levin, a few others, right? Tucker, for his credit, finds a way to always survive in the worst ways possible. He sees where the wind is blowing. Tucker understands. Even if you saw, I hate giving Tucker Carlson credit for anything. He's a terrible person. But if you saw a message, a speech that Tucker gave at Turning Points, he did an economic populist message. These folks on the ground see Mamdani's and the AOCs as threats. They're like, why are these people gaining traction? Oh, an economic, anti-establishment, a pro-populist message, right? Now you see people like Mark Levin and Dan Bongino. Guess what? They railed against the deep state. They are now part of the deep state.
Yep,
So
they are
Danielle,
the deep state. They're not part of it. They are it.
and now what's happening? They're telling everyone buckle up and shut down and follow the deep state and follow the lead. And people are like, I don't trust you. I'm gonna go and look at these other people. So Fox, even Wall Street Journal now. The fact that Wall Street Journal was threatened,
Drop that expose anyway.
dropped it, and then Donald Trump went through with his threat to sue, is now suing them for $10 billion, and they said we stand by our reporting. Two things. Number one, that means they have the goods. Number two, this is not them Julius Caesaring Donald Trump, but I think, Danielle, what we're witnessing with all of this is a sharpening of the knives. Yes. I think we're seeing the sharpening of the knives.
Because again, I'll pull this up. Representative Tim Burchett, right? Trying his very best shuck and jive for Donald Trump. The Biden administration tampered with the Epstein files, and we're never going to get to the bottom of it. I think stuff could have been placed in those files, laying the groundwork for Trump's excuse before the files even drop. So, what is their favorite their favorite person to hang everything on? Joe Biden. If that doesn't work, go to Obama. If that doesn't work, go to Hillary Clinton. That doesn't work, go to Rosie O'Donnell. That doesn't work, have sports teams change their names. That doesn't work, give a murderer 1 day in jail. That doesn't work. So it's like, folks, you just see it one right after the other. And I think, Watch, for the first time, that his base is actually seeing it, seeing his moves one right after the other and being like, dude, didn't you already play that song? Like, the first time you played it, we were like, lock her up, throw her hands in the air. The fucking 20th time that you play it in 10 years, we're like, okay, it's played out. What else do you have? And what he's showing is that he, like you said, a washed up rock star that is only playing the hits that people know him by. And folks are like, you know what? This song is tired. I am over it. And also, I'm starting not to believe it because it's the same shit over and over and over again. And that's where I think that Donald Trump is in trouble. And speaking of trouble, Waj, tell them.
Yeah, folks, listen, look at that date, July 20th. That was yesterday. I saw this. I was wondering how Donald Trump was doing in the polls, and he is negative 11 net approval, his lowest, according to the most accurate pollster. It's only been about 6.5 months. In addition to being negative 11 overall, folks, yeah, look at this. Negative 11, negative 2, negative 3, negative 1, negative 11 to YouGov, negative 12 CNN. One of them, RMG, is +4, but it's just ridiculous. All right, folks, he is not only negative double digits, he has the lowest approval rating of any president this early in his term. The only person he beats was Donald Trump, term 1. He's also, underwater on immigration, his signature issue. Why? Because people did not, vote for their neighbors, kids, and grandmas to be violently assaulted and deported by masked armed ICE agents. He's also double digits and negative when it comes to the economy, when it comes to inflation. Inflation numbers have come back, not looking good. And his signature bill, folks, the big, beautiful bill. The poll that was done last week shows that total for America, negative 25. For independence, negative 44. And what Danielle and I have kept saying, and I think it's worth bringing up again, is in normal times, if you were the party in leadership, you passed a signature bill, and the country's negative 25 on it, you're freaking the F out. And the reason why I'm freaking out is these people don't seem like they're freaking out, because it seems to me that they have a plan never, ever, ever to leave.
I mean, look, I've been saying this since like the beginning of time. You gave Donald Trump and the Project 2025 and these white nationalists and all of these folks another bite at the apple. They were never going to leave. That if you got them back in power And they knew where all the bodies were buried the first time. They touched the fence. They knew what parts were weak and where to go this time around, that they weren't going to leave. And the fact is that it should be concerning to every person that Republicans who normally would make some type of pivot around legislation that is wildly unpopular a year before midterms, and they don't seem to give a fuck at all. And why is that? Because I believe, as Waj just said, that they have it in the bag, and they either know A, we're not having midterms, B, that they're not going to be free and fair, so that they don't need to be concerned about convincing anybody to vote for them. Because on top of what we just said, this is also happening. Plunging dollar leaves American travelers with less buying power this summer. The US dollar's decline in the first half of the year against peer currencies was steepest in more than 50 years. Folks, if you actually give a shit about your job as an elected official and know that it requires people to like you to elect you, and you're not concerned about any of this, that's where all of the alarms should be going off. This is in the Wall Street Journal. American tourists have grown accustomed to their dollars traveling well. This summer, they are getting a wake-up call. The ICE US Dollar Index, which compares the US currency to a basket of 6 others, just posted its worst first half of the year in more than 50 years. The dollar has tumbled, folks, 13% against the euro this year and 6% against the Japanese yen. Just a reminder, we're about 7 months into the year. So these numbers can absolutely get worse. And by the way, it is a stark reversal of the conditions that greeted American travelers and investors so long ago, 2024. When a strong dollar lifted their purchasing power on imported goods, triggered a travel boom, and fueled talk of America's economic dynamism. And who was that under, Waj? Who was that happening under?
I think Biden.
Yeah.
Folks, it's going to get worse. And I think you have to prepare yourself for things getting worse. I'm not saying, to be a nihilist or a cynic, but this is 6 months in. And the world is going to respond to American cruelty. The world is going to respond to their citizens being detained in America, being captured in America, being mocked and ridiculed. The world is already responding to Donald Trump's allegiance and alliance with Russia and Israel by turning away from America. The world is responding to Donald Trump's reckless and stupid trade wars that have yielded zero deals and only increased the prices of goods. Everyone's going to be in pain. Americans are going to be in a lot of pain. The dollar is tanking. And the reason, folks, we talked about this briefly, but one of the reasons why the dollar tanking is good for the oligarchy is this is part of the plan. What's the plan? Tank the dollar, replace it by crypto. What happened last week? Donald Trump, surrounded by a whole bunch of rich white men in suits, signed the Genius Act. What's the Genius Act? The first ever pro-crypto legislation. Donald Trump signed it, folks. Who has made about $350 million in crypto, which should be, I don't know, like one of the biggest scandals ever, but we're dealing with like 15 different scandals. Donald Trump, he's made hundreds of millions off of crypto. And he also, if you all recall, I try to keep receipts, pardoned the criminal founder of Silk Road. You know, this administration that worries about sex trafficking and drug trafficking? Yeah, Silk Road. That internet hub for sex trafficking and drug trafficking, right? The guy who created it, who was in jail for years. Guess who pardoned him? Donald Trump. Why? Because the guy whose name I'm forgetting, but the creator of Silk Road, was a hero to the crypto bros. So, hey, crypto bros, I got your back. Hey, here's the Genius Act. And Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and others who are all up in crypto want the dollar to go down because they want the dollar to be replaced by crypto. Now, I was talking to Danielle about this right before we press record. Danielle, do you have crypto?
No.
I don't have crypto either. Most of us don't. And if we do, we don't have any of the amounts that will make us money. So as the dollar goes down and the rest of us suffer, who is going to win by the dollar dropping, being replaced by the crypto, and or crypto actually increasing in value?
Donald Trump
And the oligarchy.
and the oligarchy. However, this is what we will also remind folks. Not only do we all not have crypto, right, to an amount that matters, but the US dollar is the world's backup safe place in terms of the bond market and where it is the most stabilized. So you're talking not just about destabilizing Americans, you're talking about destabilizing the world economy.
There you go.
Right? So, I say in the long run, this is not going to bode well for MAGA. It just is. It's not for Donald Trump right now. It seems like all things are going really well, but I'm telling you, like, people, when the super wealthy begin to lose money on top of losing workers, on top of feeling like they're losing power, it is going to bode terribly for them. That's all I'm putting
Or
it
when
out
their
there.
kids go to Europe and are mocked and ridiculed, or when, people don't worship them, or when people boo them, right? And as their dollars go down, or when their kids, when they want to go to these elite universities are worth shit now. Danielle, once it starts affecting them, and it will,
And it will.
and it will,
And it will.
that's when, because what we've said before on the show is the color that trumps all other colors in America is the color green.
Mm-hmm.
And already Donald Trump is harming the color green. Someone mentioned it and I highlighted it. We've already lost $13 billion in lost tourism. And that's already in the first 6 to 7 months. That number, folks, I was reading could go up to $40 billion. Lost tourism under Trump and Trump's policies. Why? Because people do not want to go to a shithole country where the president and his second in command, Stephen Miller, openly are telling you that you're a rapist and an invader and we don't want you. They're like, all right, F you. We don't want you. Tourism is down from every country to the United States of America. Tourism is down means that people don't come here and don't spend money. What does that hurt? Businesses, the economy. Why? Because everything's connected. And Donald Trump, folks, believes that he could be the bully in the room and thump his chest and the world will respond. And folks, the world is responding, but just in a way that he did not anticipate. And it's only been 6 months.
And let's just say, so why did Donald Trump have a meltdown this weekend? Why are his followers, those that he controls, trying to come out, his mouthpieces, and get on TV and say we need to move on from this distraction? And why is Donald Trump in this spiral right now? Oh, because of another New York Times story that has come out. Reads a little something like this. Months later, when Trump hosted a party at Mar-a-Lago for young women in a so-called calendar girl competition,
Gross.
Mr. Epstein was the only other guest, according to George Horaney, a Florida-based businessman who arranged the event. Mr. Horaney recalled being surprised that Mr. Epstein was the only other person on the guest list. I said, Donald, this is supposed to be a party with VIPs, he told the New York Times back in 2019. You're telling me it's just you and Epstein? Mr. Horaney's then girlfriend and business partner, Jill Harth, later accused Trump of sexual misconduct on the night of the party. In a lawsuit, Ms. Harth said that Trump took her into a bedroom and just stop me if you fucking heard this before, forcibly kissed and fondled her and restrained her from leaving. Does this not read to you like what we heard from E. Jean Carroll, what we've heard from other women about what Trump does? She also said that a 22-year-old contestant told her that Trump later that night crawled into her bed uninvited.
I'm so glad you brought up E. Jean Carroll, and I want to sit with this for a second, folks. This has been open news. There was a documentary on Netflix, which has, by the way, gone back to #1. And I clicked on it and I'm like, oh, I saw this documentary a couple years ago when it first came out on Jeffrey Epstein. That documentary, which has 4 episodes, interviews women who were, by the way, young girls who shared their stories about Jeffrey Epstein openly. And they said they went to law enforcement. Some of them reported it. And then what happened, Danielle? It went cold. No follow-ups. And they were like, wow. And these women are so traumatized. Like in some of these women, if you see them right now, they start crying because they were abused by Epstein and Ghislaine. When it comes to Donald Trump, we've had videos of Donald Trump partying with Epstein. He's known him since the late 80s. We have photographs of them. We have Donald Trump praising Epstein, openly saying, I believe it was 2002, he likes young girls, right? Great guy. We have Epstein with Michael Wolff saying that I was Donald's closest friend. We know Donald Trump partied with Epstein. He flew on his jet, right? The logs are there. Even if the logs aren't there, the photos are there. We know that Trump met his wife, Melania, before she was his wife, and they partied with Epstein and Ghislaine. We know that there are at least I don't know about 24, but nearly 24 women who have credibly accused Donald Trump of sexual assault. Yep. As Danielle said, E. Jean Carroll, he has been held liable for sexually assaulting and defaming E. Jean Carroll, and her story is remarkably similar to the story we just saw in the New York Times, right? This is the same man who 10 years ago, Access Hollywood tape came out. Grab women by the pee. When you're rich and famous, they let you get away with it. And we've known this, and corporate media said, Democrats said, meh. Law enforcement said, And it's MAGA that brought it up, Danielle. And because MAGA gave them the permission, let's be honest, because MAGA gave them the permission, now the New York Times, at least last night, Sunday night, the top half of the front page was all Epstein MAGA stories that were made public for 20 years. So Danielle, I ask you, the stuff that we've known for 2 decades, how come no one cared? And how come they're only caring now?
I mean, here's the thing. For me, 2 original sins in this country: racism, and the second one being misogyny. We do not care about women. You shouldn't need a list, right? The client list. Because why? Because we have a list of over 24 women that have come out over 20 years to tell literally the same story about Donald Trump.
Yep.
And why did law enforcement not do anything? Why did the banks not reveal the $1.5 billion in suspicious transactions by Epstein? 1.5 billion, not millions of dollars, $1 billion. Why did they not reveal that until he was arrested? Why, when these women went to law enforcement, why did they not do anything? Because of the power and the people that are implicated and that paid the money to have the sex trafficking ring move the way that it did for decades. And who do I believe is at the center of it? Donald fucking Trump. And so again, if there were anything inside of those files that exonerated Donald Trump, he would be selling them on fucking Truth Social. And so the goal here, and this is why I believe, because again, I'm curious, Waj, why don't we think that the Biden administration released the Epstein files when they were in charge of the Department of Justice? Because I believe that there are just as many Democrats that are associated with these crimes as there are Republicans.
Yep,
and so instead of coming clean and saying, I don't care who's been donating, I don't care what stakeholder is involved, like this is corruption, sex trafficking, like abuse of women at its core, we're going to get to the bottom of it. They didn't either, right? And it's because of the web that is surrounded by these people. So it's like we have to dig deeper than what's being put out for us, because corporate mainstream media, along with the banks, along with the judges, along with the politicians, are all fucking involved in this scandal up to their eyeballs.
I completely agree. I want to bring up this little tidbit that I just caught, but it's just been stuck in my head. It's about 2 weeks ago. Gayle King was interviewing Bill Gates' former wife, Melissa Gates, I believe is her name. And she asked her, was Bill Gates' relationship with Epstein a reason why you divorced him? And she was very careful with her words, but she said, it was one of the many reasons. But yes, I was not happy with Bill Gates continuing his relationship with Epstein. That's his ex-wife. So Clinton, I would not be surprised he's there. Bill Gates would not be surprised. A whole bunch of philanthropists, professors, academics, elected officials, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, right? And like I said before, and I'll say it again, I said it last night when I was talking to Allison, I don't care if Democrats, liberals, progressives are on that list. If they're on that list and it's shown that they were in some way, shape, or form complicit in preying on young girls, helping Epstein, or they themselves did it, F them all to hell. All of them.
Yep.
All of them. And another reason why Pelosi, hate to be conspiratorial, but folks, it's hard not to be, especially in the last 2 weeks. Like, yo, what are you hiding, Donald Trump? What are you hiding with Epstein? She might be trying to protect some Democrats. The Queen tried to protect her son, Prince Andrew, because we all know he's a pedophile, all up in those documents, because the girls have repeatedly said that they were abused by Prince Andrew, right? I think in addition to powerful people, Danielle, you mentioned it, there's a money trail here. And Lev Parnas was telling me, he goes, focus on the money as well. That money trail, he was alleging, he would not be surprised, he said, if that leads to foreign countries and also certain banks. And I would not be surprised if there are some foreign countries involved, right? They're like, hey, think about it, Danielle. If you are another country and you're the intelligence of another country, isn't this ripe for you to get blackmail information on individuals?
I mean, I would think so. And so, like, again, Senator Rob Wyden said, follow the money. There is a lot of money that we are talking, Ron Wyden, there is a lot of money that we are talking about here. We are talking about billions and billions of dollars. We're talking about foreign affairs. We're talking about wire fraud. We're talking about bank corruption. We're talking about political corruption and manipulation. Like, there is so much here. The rot is so fucking deep. So when you think to yourself, why didn't the Biden administration that had the opportunity, right, to share these files, release them? Yep. Now, why isn't Donald Trump, who said 10 years, I'm going to release the files, I'm going to get rid of the deep state, why is he not releasing the files? These things, I'm telling you, these wealthy, white, powerful, cis men have a lot more in common than they have that separates them. And this is the reason why people throw their hands up at politics and say both parties ain't worth a fucking damn. While we know that there are differences when it comes to corruption, when it comes to abuse of women, when it comes to abuse of power, what we are being shown right now is that there is a very non-existent line that they are all willing to cross to protect their own asses and their own vested interests, in spite of what the public deserves. That is it.
I agree. And, Danielle and I were talking about this, of how, and some people might not like hearing it, yes, both sides aren't the same. Donald Trump is a fascist, but it's the corruption. It's a big club and you ain't in it, folks. Because I want to remind everyone, what we just said is that Bill Clinton had a relationship with Epstein. The extent of it, we don't know. And we saw that photo of Bill Clinton and Bloomberg and Donald Trump golfing. They're all buddies, folks. And I could tell you, I'm here in Virginia. I always tell this story because it's just very indicative. When I was at CNN, so I used to go to the DC studios and used to be in the green room. And in the green room, I just sit there, and this is during the age of Trump. Mm-hmm. A lot of the hosts, producers, commentators, chummy with each other. Chummy with the right wing or the left wing, right? In some of these DC parties that I've been to and Danielle have been to, Danielle, they sit there, they drink together, they party together, they cheat on each other with their wives, right? They hook up. Mm-hmm. During the first Trump administration, I remember I was invited to that big party hosted by UTA in DC before the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And the person who was having a gay old time at the front, laughing it up, Danielle, picking someone up, guffawing, Sean Spicer. They invited Sean Spicer. It's a big club and you ain't in it, folks. And this is why people are losing faith with the establishment. Yes, the Democratic establishment is not the same as Donald Trump. We got it. But they're part of the same club. They all sat there and drank the same alcohol. They sat there and went to the same golf clubs. They go to the same churches and synagogues, right? They know each other. They pat each other on the back. And this is why the Democrats actually have a lower favorability rating right now than Donald Trump, the lowest favorability rating since 1994. And the reason for it, and the reason why I do not think they will change, Daniel, I do not think they will change. I think, like we've said before, they're going to hold on to it like Charlton Heston. They're going to hold on to power with their cold, dead hands, right? Mm-hmm. I show them why. Give them the latest example. And tell me if I'm right. If you disagree with me.
Here's where we are. Schumer, Jeffries, Hochul, right, have yet to endorse Mamdani. At a time when we are talking about, right, people being sick to death of the fucking Democratic establishment, somebody has finally shown you, here, you don't need to hire consultants to teach you how to speak to single American men, Sam, that you actually can take a look at what Mamdani's been doing and be able to fucking ride the coattails of that, ride that wave. But what they are showing us, and this is why I say we need to be grateful in this moment for the transparency. We need to be grateful in this moment for the wool being pulled back from over our eyes and the rose-colored glasses becoming clear. Because what they are showing us is that even when they have a guide, even when there is somebody that understands the people, that is dedicated to the people, that is not addicted to their donor, that is not addicted to corporate money, that when that person shows themselves, establishment Democrats run to the other side of the fucking room. Establishment Democrats will spend all of the money that they could in increasing their base and sending out this message to try and destroy somebody that they see as a standing between them and their pockets. And that's what they see about Mamdani. So you take a look at this, and I will play this video because this man is on it. He knows what the fuck is going on. And all I'm telling you that establishment Democrats and Republicans are doing is showing the people that neither of them are to be trusted. Take a listen to this video.
Means listen, not just to your supporters, but your critics too. And some of these critics, especially on a certain website, have been giving me consistent advice. For example, at SamWhite087, Zoran, go back to Uganda, where you come from and belong. At Teflon Gone, loser, go back to Africa. There are thousands like this from across the country. I hear you. And I agree. I'm going back to Uganda. I'm headed there in a personal capacity to celebrate Rama and I's marriage with our family and friends. But I do want to apologize to the haters, because I will be coming back. And since you will undoubtedly read about this trip in the New York Post, inshallah on the front page, here are a few of my humble suggestions for headlines. MIA, Mamdani in Africa. Uganda miss me. He's completely crazy. He can't be serious. Carl Kampala-Neely investigates Mamdani. Zoe running away.
That's gold. You know what I said? I saw that. I'm like, gold. Own it. Lean into it. I just want to say, I also wrote a book called Go Back to Where You Came From.
I was going to say.
And other helpful recommendations on how to become American. Just trying to own it and spin it. But you know what Democratic establishment would have done? They would have thrown Uganda under the bus and Ugandan immigrants under the bus and sided with Republicans. Oh, yeah, they already did that in the beginning of Donald Trump's term by voting for the Laken Riley Act. That's what Democrats would have done, the establishment Democrats. As Zoran said, nope, I'm going to lean fully in and troll you with a smile on my face. They're not built for this, Danielle. They're not built for this.
No, but what are they built for, Waj?
Cuomo. And Cuomo says that if Mamdani wins, he's going to go to Florida. Go to Florida, Cuomo. Retire in Florida, right? He blames Zoran Mamdani's young Jewish and pro-Palestinian voters for his primary loss. I don't disagree with him. That's where the base is. But guess what? When Benjamin Netanyahu was visiting, folks, I think it was now almost been 2 weeks. Guess who took a photo with war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu just about 2 weeks ago? Senator Schumer, Chris Coons, Amy Klobuchar, Cory Booker, Adam Schiff, and there was a couple more. That's what Democratic leadership thought. What should we do? As our base is repeatedly telling us that we're disgusted by Israel's genocide. Take a photo with Netanyahu. That's where they are, folks. That's where they are.
That's where they are. And just to be very clear, and this is what is happening. Nearly 1 in 3 people are not eating for days in Gaza. 90,000 women and children are in urgent need of treatment for malnutrition. People are dying from lack of humanitarian assistance. This is coming from Miss Rachel, who has more courage than the Democratic Party. Gaza hospitals report patients collapsing in the streets from starvation, warning severe malnutrition under blockade is causing an imminent wave of deaths. But what are Democrats doing? Democrats are cheering fucking Israel. More than 30 people have been killed after Israeli troops opened fire towards crowds of Palestinians waiting for aid. But this is who Schumer, fucking Jeffries, Cuomo, and the likes want to stand by and pat on the back and welcome into this country and send billions of dollars of our fucking money so that we can be murderers. So when we see this, all I have to say is that I put out the energy and I say thank you. Thank you, Democrats, for clearing my eyes. Thank you for showing me who you are. Thank you for staying true, right, to your base, which is not us, we the people, your base of donors, your base of stakeholders, your base of AIPAC. Thank you so much for enlightening us, right, to what matters to you, what is important to you, because it is not the American people. So, that's what I say. Like, I don't get angry anymore. I mean, I do. Everybody knows that. But the fact is, I say, you know what? Thank you. Because for 20 years that I invested into the fucking Democratic Party, 20 years, 10 of which going on TV as a Democratic strategist, as a mouthpiece of the party, all of these things, because I believed in a multiracial democracy and believed that that's what they believed in. And what they have shown me over the last few years of Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people, what they have shown me with their silence or they have a right to protect themselves, they've shown me who they are. And when I was little and you're learning about Hitler and you're learning about 6 million Jewish people being murdered, and I said, how could you sit by? What kind of country, what kind of world sits by, idly by, and watches something like this happen? And now I understand how, because we are doing it again. And we've done it over and over again. And for some people, you'll never know, because the people that are the victims of genocide, we don't care, because we don't have anything to extract from them, because they are useless to us. There's no oil there. There's no minerals there, right? If we wipe them out, then Donald Trump gets beachfront property. Like, this is who the world is. And it's important for us to support stop compromising our values by saying, well, it's better than the alternative, because the alternative ain't shit, and neither are the fucking Democrats. We need something better.
And folks might not like hearing this, but the genocide, and it is a genocide now, folks. How can you look at those photos and the horror stories? It comes every day. Every day there's a new horror story that is worse than the previous day. They're deliberately, and by they I mean Israel, the Israeli regime, is deliberately starving the Palestinian people in Gaza. We just got another story, and this is not the first time this has happened. When Palestinians in Gaza went to the food aid distribution site, you know what Israel did? Shot at them. Shot at starving, defenseless people who had gathered at a food aid distribution site in Gaza. Killed them. More children have been killed by Israel in the past year and a half in Gaza than in all the other war zones combined. It has the greatest ratio of child amputees in the world. There are no press that are allowed in Gaza. Why? Because the most moral army in the world, the IDF, of course, they have nothing to hide, Daniel, because they're so moral, which is why they have outlawed press in Gaza, right? And folks,
before they outlawed them, they killed hundreds of them. They killed hundreds of people in the press.
Killed press, killed more UN workers than any other country in the world. There's no schools left in Gaza because they bombed all the schools. I've been saying for a while, hey, you right-wing Christians who care about Christianity, what about the Palestinian Christians? Now, finally, people are talking about, you saw the Pope spoke out, right? Because They're bombing churches, right? It's not the first time, folks. They don't care about it between a Palestinian Christian or a Muslim. It's just a Palestinian. It's an ant. It's Amalek. It deserves to be destroyed, right? It's a threat. That's what happens when you see an entire group of people as a problem. You come up with a solution, sometimes a final solution. And the reason why this is so sinful in particular is it's being done with U.S. money, your money, my money, our government, U.S. bombs, U.S. weapons. And it isn't just Donald Trump's genocide. It is Joe Biden's genocide. It's a Democrat, a Republican, bipartisan establishment genocide. And that's the facts, whether people like it or not. Those are the facts. And after a year and a half, seeing so much pain, death, and destruction, and looking at the poll numbers, where literally the Democrats are telling their Democratic officials, we're radicalized on this issue. They still took a photo with Benjamin Netanyahu less than 2 weeks ago. I'm done with them. I'm done with the Democratic establishment. I want a culling. I've said it before. I want a culling. They're not going to change. Pelosi's not. I saw Pelosi's video a couple of days ago. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. But Schumer was right there with Netanyahu with a smile. I'm like, Schumer needs to go. Pelosi needs to go. All these people with an old way of thinking. I'm not talking about old as an age. I'm talking about old way of thinking. They need to go, Danielle. And yes, Jimmy, that's my word, Jimmy, a culling. There needs to be a culling. There needs to be a culling. Because listen, and the last thing I'll say is the reality is the only opposition that we have right now, as far as a major political opposition party, is the Democrats. If something else comes up, I'm willing to sign up. But you need a robust Democratic Party just for the sake of stopping fascism. And Danielle and I believe we're on the same page here. The lesser of two evils is literally that, the lesser of two evils. So you have to be pragmatic. But just because you're pragmatic doesn't mean you have to be friggin' humiliated and mocked and ridiculed by this corrupt establishment. You can pressure them. You should pressure them. And you deserve better. Politicians are a tool to do good. And if that tool ain't working, and if that tool's working against you, peace out, tool. 86 that tool. So I'm all for the culling, Danielle. I'm sick and tired of this. This is happening in our lifetime. And I've never seen, on this show, I've said, I got the gray hairs. There was only one other time, folks, I've seen such a remarkable shift in U.S. politics in my lifetime. I'm old enough to remember Ellen DeGeneres came out on that Time magazine cover. Yep. I'm gay. And I was a high school student. We were like, what? Gays? They exist, not just in San Francisco. And then I saw Ellen DeGeneres just get railroaded. My God, I remember I saw that. She lost everything. And then she got her power, and then she became part of the establishment and decided to stomp on everyone else. I digress. But you saw a shift by the time I was in high school to college, from the first Trump administration, Obama administration, the second, like that, folks. Within 10 years, Danielle was part of it. She was an activist. You saw people change. In a year and a half, Danielle, 2 years ago, I never, ever would have thought America would be where it's at when it comes to Palestine. I've been in it for a while. You've been in it for a while. In a year and a half, Danielle, the most remarkable change I've seen, where a majority of Americans have seen a genocide stream to their phones, and they have become radicalized around the world. Am I wrong about this?
I mean, it's 100% true. And I think that to me is where the hopefulness lies, right? Is the hopefulness is that in our short lifetime, right, at middle age, we have seen so much change and shift that we never thought we would see change or shift. We are experiencing the rise, not the rise, we're experiencing American fascism. Why? Because there has been so much progress. Because the people who were once moved into the shadows of our society, like trans people, like queer people, right? Women, Black people, Latinos, people of color, etc., that had always been pushed to the margins. Oh, we'll let one or two of you in to show that we're not racist or misogynist or what have you, but we'll hold down the majority. We are seeing this pushback because of an awakening that is happening. You don't get Donald Trump without the progress that Obama symbolized. You don't get the white nationalism without the rise of a multiracial democracy. These things coincide with the other. And so in our lifetime, we've seen this extraordinary shift. I remember when the numbers would come out, how many people know somebody that is lesbian, gay, or bisexual that GLAAD had put out like 20 years ago, and it was like 18%. Now it is over 80% of people know somebody that's lesbian, gay, or bisexual, and 18% know somebody that is trans. Right? So, like, these are the shifts that are happening, not because we're all laying around twiddling our thumbs, but it's because of the action that we've been taking individually and collectively. So, this idea that nothing can change and nothing ever changes is a lie. It does, right? It may not change at the rate that we want it to, but it does. And so the questions that we need to be asking ourselves is that we are seeing the rise of fascism in this country, autocracy take hold. We don't have to live this way, though.
Nope.
This does not have to be our end game. And so I think that it's important for us to hold on to that truth and that hope so that we don't get disoriented with the distractions and the bullshit and the barrage of lies and misinformation and disinformation. We need to continue to understand that we are at a pain point, a dark point, but it's not the end. It is the end of one version of America, but there is a new version that is beginning.
Ameen, inshallah. Folks, there's more of us than there are of them. It's going to get rough. It's going to get bad. It's going to be a tough few years. It's a long walk. This is not said for you to be despondent or to lose hope or to be cynical, but we just have to walk that path with eyes wide open. It's going to require a lot of work, and we cannot outsource this to the establishment or the Avengers. They ain't coming, and you don't want them to come. Right? It's going to be all of us trying to build something better, not restoration, but what we always say on this show is reformation. And it requires everyone, parents who are staying at home, the way you model your language and behavior for your children, teachers, right? Running for city council, running for school board, right? Running for office, the way you behave at work. It's going to require everybody doing something. If that means boycotting, you boycott. If that means marching, march. If that means you giving up some comfort so the rest of us, including your children and grandchildren, inshallah, can have a better future, so be it. I think we're in it now, folks. Everyone who said, who's been watching us for a while, thought we were hyperbolic. We got masked armed agents terrorizing Americans with the help of the military and the National Guard, and you got a desperate, aging, decaying fascist who will do everything and anything in his power to stay in power. I don't think he'll ever leave voluntarily. If he leaves in other ways, I'm perfectly fine with that because he is an old man with cankles. Folks, that has been another episode of Democracy-ish. Thank you all for watching. For someone who asked, will we do this regularly? We actually are live Monday and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time.
I'm like, we do regularly 3 days a week.
Welcome. And then we also do a check-in Wednesday on Substack where we mix it up. And finally, this Wednesday, we're going to talk about Andor Season 2 because Danielle finally saw Andor Season 2. And she saw Star Wars A New Hope, and she saw Empire Strikes Back and Rogue One. So we're going to talk about the politics of resistance vis-a-vis Star Wars. And guess what, folks? You might think, I'm not going to be into it. Just tune in. A whole bunch of folks like the time we did Andor Season 1. And this has been Democracy-ish, which is hosted on Daniel Moody's YouTube show. Folks, we're independent. We do not take money from anyone. We are reader and viewer supported. We depend on the kindness of strangers like Blanche Dupois. There are no paywalls on Democracy-ish. There are no paywalls on my Substack, The Left Hook. There are no paywalls on Danielle's Substack, The Damn Digest. At the very least, if you can, please become a free subscriber. Please become a free subscriber to Danielle's YouTube show. This is how the algorithms work. If you have a few bucks, folks, it goes a long way. I have 900 children. Danielle has a nice coffee she must drink to stay alive. So the $5 to be a member for our Substack goes a long way. And all these, Tina, Demetrius, Susan, as always, comes in. So give it up to Susan, the moderator, Barb, the $5, $2, $3 that you all give while watching on YouTube, right? The super chatters goes a huge way. So thank you so much. Danielle, final word to you.
Yeah, just, folks, we appreciate you tuning in. Continue to share. I am very close, less than 100 subscribers away from 28,000
Yay.
here on YouTube. Continue to support independent media and independent voices. And again, if you have the ability to become a monthly paid subscriber on our Substacks, please do so. But also know that we never put anything behind a paywall, because we believe that that is where the resistance dies, and we refuse to do that. But if you have the ability, you have the money, help us out, friends. We will see you back on Wednesday on a Substack for the Andor conversation, and then back here on Friday for our regularly scheduled Democracy-ish. We appreciate all of you. Be well, take care of yourselves, and as Waj says, don't be a fascist.